Ferrari may not be having any major upgrades scheduled for this weekend's Imola Grand Prix, but that doesn't mean they aren't actually testing anything for the event. In secret, Ferrari will be testing out a rear brake system very much similar to the highly documented and talked about McLaren system on their MCL-39. Now, this is of course only a prototype model of what would of course become their final version. That is, if everything runs smoothly and they get all of the data from it that they wish to in terms of success, or if it is not successful, just what they need to do to fix this issue the next time they take to the track with their version 2 or their version 3 of this device. This news comes courtesy of Autoracer, as it always does with Ferrari information. Now, while some may be a little bit disappointed that there is no major upgrade coming for this event or for any of the upcoming rounds, that actually shouldn't be something to be discouraged about. And this particular device, if they can get it onto the car for this season, is of course going to be of massive use and benefits to them for not only this year, but of course for all future years within the sport. Because if we look at what McLaren are able to achieve, particularly in the Grand Prix, we're talking here of course about race stints, it is quite evident that it's an important piece of technology that they need on their car to be able to compete with McLaren. And it isn't only Ferrari doing this very thing, although not at Imola. Mercedes and also Red Bull are reportedly also conducting their own internal investigations and creating and designing their own prototype for their cars. Now, we don't know exactly whether it will be doing the exact same things as the McLaren one, because of course no one would tell us and we won't be able to see the fruits of their labour. But one thing is for certain, with regards to Ferraris, they definitely want this device to work in as identical a manner as that of the McLarens, because if they can, it means they're going to have a much better race pace situation moving forward. Of course, it is more than likely going to take a long time for this to come to fruition, not only for this season, but also to have a finalized version that they will have at some point this season, but of course for the cars next year and that generation of F1 designs that they will have, of course. Now, for McLaren, let's turn our attention to them. It has taken them a considerable amount of time, effort and resources to get to the position they currently are in. And this goes all the way back at least to Austria last year, if I'm not mistaken, when it first came to a certain team's attention that they may be doing something. It was a little bit cheeky and a little bit underhand at that point in time. And of course, Red Bull were the team to spot that. Now, over the next year, they've gotten a better understanding on this system. And finally, this year is one of the most impressive pieces of technology on their MCL-39. Now, while we see in qualifying things can be extremely close and on the very odd occasion they don't take pole position, for example, but as we saw in Miami, even if they don't in the sprint, they have the necessary advantage they need over a race distance to be able to take the lead and drive off into the sunset. Now, this device works very much when it comes to thermal management of the tyres. And of course, over a race distance, this is where it's going to bear the largest advantage you will get from it, because this device enables the drivers to push their cars more towards the limits of their capabilities without stressing the tyres, overheating them, and they're able to run to a much quicker pace than all of their competitors. And that is the aim of the game when it comes to Ferrari, Mercedes and Red Bull when they finally introduce their own versions of it on their cars. So we have to keep a very watchful eye on Ferrari this upcoming weekend, only in the practice sessions, and see whether they are able to get good information from their initial tests of this device. And another question you do have to ask yourself is, will they be able to make this clever innovation work to the same degree McLaren have? Now, I think the jury will be forever out on that, at least until we get to see Ferrari trial this system out in Imola in practice sessions and more than likely in the race. Only then will they know, and then potentially us know, whether their system has worked in the same way. Now, how is this all going to help Ferrari in race situations? Because, of course, this is the name of the game. It's about getting it on the car and to make use of it, take advantage of it when it comes to race situations. Well, there are two differing ways through which it will help, and these are all about the conditions that we will be facing, or the teams will be facing when it comes to Grand Prix. So, of course, one of those is interchangeable conditions, when we're going from a wet, damp track to a drying track. And then second of all, when we go to the extreme heat of other Formula One venues, such as we had last time out in Bahrain. And what this should do is help keep the thermal management under acceptable levels in terms of the temperature, because that is what this whole system is about. It enabled McLaren in Australia to be able to hit continuous lap times within the 1 minute 37s or 36s off the top of my head, while all the other teams were going over a second a lap slower because their tyres had gone out of the optimum working range in terms of temperatures. And McLaren, with this unique system, allowed themselves to be within this level that they have personally in terms of acceptance. And this enables them to have an expanded range of strategy decisions and choices they can make, because they can extend their stints a lot longer into a Grand Prix. They can see if there's weather on the radar, they can then preempt that and not have to make on the fly decisions, because they've got such a dramatic advantage in terms of thermal heat management. And it's something they used to great effect in Australia, of course, because they were able to keep the tyres in the optimum working window. The tyres weren't overheating, and as such they were going seconds a lap quicker than the rest of the field, opening that gap, opening a pit stop advantage over the field. And this is how it's going to help Ferrari extend their current gap over teams, as well as bridge the gap to McLaren. It will enable them to be able to have a wider variety of strategy calls to make in Grand Prix and make it work in the same manner. And of course, this is transferable to when we go to the extreme heat of like races like Bahrain, Malaysia in the past, all the other hotter climates that Formula One goes to throughout the season. And it will pay dividends for them in those events over that of their competitors. So yeah, that is the revelation that came out of yesterday, and I hope you've all enjoyed this video. If you have, do of course leave a like on this video, share it with all the socials that you're on, and of course if you're new and have enjoyed the content, do hit that subscribe button down below. Alright everyone, I'll see you all later on this week with some more Formula One videos. See you all then.